C-A-M-P-F-I-R-E-S-O-N-G song. Hey, C-A-M-P-F-I-R-E-S-O-N-G song. And if you don't think we can sing it faster, then you're wrong. Better help it if you just sing along. C-A-M-P-F-I-R-E-S-O-N-G.
Hi guys, welcome back to Mukbang Mondays. I'm very excited for this Mukbang Monday. This all smells really, really good.
It does.
It smells really, really good. Indianapolis's Maggiano's, we DoorDashed it. It smells like incredible. I'm so hungry, actually. I haven't eaten yet today. Today, we're going to be talking about World War II. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the Madagascar Project through the lens of Attack on Titan.
Okay.
So if you haven't finished Attack on Titan, you might not want to watch this video. There's going to be spoilers in this video, but on TikTok, I will be giving a breakdown of this same event, but it'll be a no spoilers version. So if you want to see the no spoilers version, definitely check out TikTok. We get into the food. We're just going to try everything. This is my boyfriend, Kylan.
I'm Daisy Foko's boyfriend. That's my tag. Mr. Daisy, here to have a good time.
Just happy to be here. It all looks really good though. No, that made it look like this bread is hard, but it's not.
No, it's not. Although I did a terrible job. User error.
The marinara sauce is really good. Also, we're in love, so of course this is a double dipping house. Before anybody says, ew, we make out. It's fine. Cooties. Throws up.
Violently
Disgusted.
ill. Big fan of grains.
Big grain guy.
Big grain guy. Huge grain guy.
All about the grains. This is chicken and cheese and mushroom. Oh my god. This is so good. You have to tell people what you think about everything. You can't just sit and chew in silence.
Oh, sorry.
Remember people critiqued you for that last time where they were like, he's not even saying anything. She's telling a great story.
He don't even care.
He doesn't care. If it was me, bro, I would care. Daisy, I would care. Don't let him do you like that again.
Well, since I'm an introvert and I'm an avid reader, a lot of my visualization takes place in my head. So I'm generally pretty quiet by nature.
That's true. We're a classic introvert-extrovert couple.
Yeah. So like when Daisy's telling me things and it looks like I'm not listening, in reality, I'm just off in my head.
I have a deep inner
visualizing.
world.
Yeah, that's literally what it is.
I have a very active inner world.
If you get in reading early enough, and this is why part of like the reason like I'm so into books is like once you like develop that skill, you can escape into your head, and people will be like, that guy, he's a weirdo, and it's like, no, I just have a few realms to take care of, you know?
This seems like a great time to plug your charity. That wasn't planned, but we are talking about books, and Kylan has a nonprofit devoted to getting books to children called KG's Kids. You should check it out, consider donating. Indiana literacy rates are pretty low. He's the guy working on that. Pretty cool. Pretty cool of him. And then you too can have an active inner world.
Imagination. Very good.
Yeah,
Very
it
good.
looks really good.
I always wait till the second bite, because the first bite's like your introduction, you know? Your
What's
first
the flow of
impression.
conversation with this dish and I?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like, the second time you meet somebody, generally, this isn't a hard, fast rule. Maybe like the second time you get a little deeper
That's true.
with your subject.
As long as it's going somewhere, you know?
Yeah. You start to like really get into their core values. You know what I mean? So, what's your favorite type of pasta? Bow tie. Crucify him.
Bow tie's good. This is really good. This has like a good balance of basil.
You're a big
Basil's
basil.
popping.
Big basil.
Big basil guy. Big bays. Big days.
Big bays for days. I think that was pretty
I was
good.
about to make the worst joke ever.
Do it. Let her rip.
More like basil Foko.
That was good.
It's not. Don't lie to me. It was bad. It was really bad.
It's alright then. We all make mistakes.
Yeah. The video that we're making today, there is a specific show that's incredibly relevant and actually like rooted in this real historical event. That show being Attack on Titan. We actually just finished Attack on Titan like 2 days ago.
No, you never gave me your final thoughts on that.
Well, I was saving it for now, but because this is a spoilers video anyway.
Oh.
Freaking love Attack on Titan. And this, all spoilers from this moment forward. I think of any animated show I've seen in recent years, it does the best job of showing the rise of fascism from like a pretty accurate lens to like how fascism really does take hold throughout history, and it shows how authoritarian governments end up getting a lot of support, and it shows how people get radicalized pretty accurately, I would say, from both sides. It does a really good job of showing like the children of Ymir, how they get radicalized, and then it shows how the Marleyans and the rest of the world also get radicalized. And so it does a really good job of keeping things symmetrical in that sense, which I respect. I respected it. So I felt like it was really good, and I also like that the ending was like, oh, and it's just going to start again, because fascism is a disease you always have to look out for, and it does always come back. It creeps its way back. Right when you think it's gone, it comes back. And I do think that the only difference now is like Ymir is gone, right? She's finally at peace. But I think Aaron is going to be the new Ymir.
No, it's not Aaron.
I think so, yeah. Mm-hmm. Who do you think it is?
The tree grew from his body.
Yeah.
And it evolved into the portal where Ymir disappeared into. So that little kid with his dog.
That little kid's the new Ymir?
He's the new Ymir.
Aw, dang.
No,
I felt
Aaron's
so
dead.
smart moments ago.
No,
now I feel like a big dumb.
No, you're big smart. You're big smart.
An idiot. And then I looked in the mirror later that night and I said, "You're dumb."
What is very interesting though, and this is a little side piece.
You have a side piece?
No. Anyway, just a thought I've been having. It was a dude and his dog, right? Is the dog gonna become a titan?
I was also wondering about like, what's up with the dog?
Oh my God, dog titans? That is so fucking scary. Could you imagine if Dante just one day just like...
It all
Oh my God.
It all pales in comparison to what I was going to say, but then I decided to take an extra bite of food, because this is really good. He's going to become the scariest thing that we've ever seen.
What?
On the internet or in the world.
Dog General?
Dog General is the scariest. It's the scariest thing. I just saw on TikTok earlier today, this is so relevant, that like the US military was at an anime convention trying to get recruits, and everyone was like, wow, they gotta be really desperate to be trying to get recruits here. And I was like, no. They want like the scariest possible
Think about this.
recruits. They saw Dog General and they said, we could have that again. We could do it bigger and better.
Hear me out. Just imagine if you gave a Discord mod WMDs.
Just imagine if you gave a Discord mod just like a mild amount of real life power. How immediately intense.
What's wrong, kitten? You stop responding. Shall I bomb this country for you?
Why did I say shall? Tips Fedora.
Oh, a couple civilians are nothing to me.
I'm on my Joker arc.
Oh my God. I will unleash my bipolar on you. Am I allowed to say I'm Team Aaron?
If you want.
I mean, there was like if I watched my mother get eaten by a titan. And then
he fed his mom to the titan.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But he didn't know at the time.
Yeah, he did.
When he was a kid? He didn't know that. He didn't know that.
All time for him is simultaneous.
But he didn't inherit the Attack Titan yet.
It doesn't matter, because the second he inherited it, it changed his entire past, present, and future. So when he did that, he did know. When his mom got eaten, he couldn't live in a world wherein his mom got eaten without having already inherited the Attack Titan.
I don't see. That's where time. I don't get time because like
time is
it's
like
not
this.
a line.
It's not a line. It's a stack, and he just poked through it.
I don't enjoy that. I'm not a fan of that.
This I'm a fan of.
Yeah, I like the.
This is good.
Yeah, he did feed his mom to a titan. He even said it.
No, he said it.
Yeah.
And the titan he fed his mom to is her husband's ex-wife.
Yeah. I mean.
Seems a little unnecessarily brutal.
I feel like, his hand was forced. He had to fight back.
To the actual story. So you like World War II. Like, you like learning about World War II a lot. So you might peripherally know about this. Or fully know about it. Are you aware of the Madagascar Project?
Vaguely.
In 1878, there was this Orientalist scholar.
What was his name?
It was Paul de Langard.
Very nice.
Thank you. He was the one who first proposed the Madagascar plan.
So he was like an Asian regional specialist.
I know that the word Oriental is used in connection with items, which is why people don't like it. Like, you can't use it on a person because you're objectifying them. But, like, that's why they sell, like, Oriental rugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't say that, like, about a human being. They're not a rug.
So is what I said more accurate?
I think what you said was accurate. He proposed the Madagascar plan, which was basically an evacuation plan. He wanted to take all of the European Jews and send them to Madagascar.
Okay.
He wrote about this in these special writings called, like, the German writings. They have, like, their own word for it, but that's the English translation. And actually, early Zionists, they were seriously considering it because they at that time were already thinking about the Uganda Project, which was essentially like the same thing that Israel is right now, just in Uganda instead. And so they were like, maybe we'll do Madagascar. At that time, Madagascar was a French territory, and that's what appealed to both the Nazis and to their allies.
That was French?
Yes. Do you remember exactly when in World War II they took over France?
I would say do you have an exact date?
I do have an exact date, so I want to see if you remember.
Well, it had to be pre-1941, 1940 probably, because they took Poland in 1939. So I'd say France fell probably middle of the year, sometime in July, August.
In June of 1940.
Damn, I was so close!
France was taken, and it was right after Poland. You're all right on that. There was originally a plan, speaking of Poland, to evacuate European Jewish people specifically into Poland, and then they didn't like this idea because of the Soviet Union's proximity to Poland.
That's what I was going to say. 1941, they started fighting.
Yeah. And actually, Nazis were super into this idea. Before concentration camps happened, and before they started the ghettos, the main plan was literally to just take all of the European Jews and put them somewhere else. And so it's kind of weird that, like, early Nazi ideology and current Zionist ideology both are in agreement about a Jewish state. Before people eat my, they have very different ideas of what a Jewish state would look like. So what Nazis wanted to do with this concept with the Madagascar Project was they wanted to take all of the European Jews and they wanted to put them in Madagascar, and they wanted to, like, do it in a very rough way, mind you. So they were accounting for a lot of deaths during the passage. And yeah, so they were like, it's a benefit to us that a lot of people would just organically die. They basically were citing that it would be similar to, like, the transatlantic slave trade, but obviously, like, a shorter time.
That reminds me of, like, that one death march that not the Nazis did, but I believe it was the Japanese did with American POWs.
Yeah, it is very similar.
And they didn't let them sleep, didn't let them eat, and, like, basically made them march, and, like, they would just, like, I can't remember what the name of it. They had, like, a specific name for it. But yeah, okay, I'm following. Trail of Tears.
No, the Trail of Tears is Native Americans.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a similar thing.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's very similar to the Trail of Tears, but with boats. They wanted to take all of the European Jewish people and they wanted to put them in Madagascar, and they wanted them to have their own pseudo-government within Madagascar. However, they wanted it to still be a German police state. So they wanted the borders of Madagascar to be completely closed and controlled. So they didn't want any European Jewish people to be able to leave Madagascar, and they didn't want there to be open trade or anything like that. So basically, they were like, once you guys are in this giant open air prison, you can decide what you want to do amongst yourselves as long as you don't leave. And you can't trade, and you can't get access to weaponry, and we give you whatever resources we want to, and we can withhold those resources at any time. So it is sort of like a giant ghetto.
Yeah, so, like, the difference, I guess, am I allowed to draw parallels yet?
With Attack on Titan?
Yeah.
No, not yet. Save it a little bit, but soon, yeah. It doesn't end there. There was a brief period of time where the Nazi Party considered doing this in Palestine, actually. Yes.
Teacher, I have a question. So it came out 1878, so post-fall of France, they're talking about this.
Yes, so this is, like, decades later. The original concept was born far before the conflict really started to kick off. There was a huge uptick in violence against European Jewish people before World War I. And so during World War I, it got worse, and that's when you started to see violent outbreaks that were anti-Semitic. And then, obviously, World War II happened, and that's where it went to a whole other level. So that's where they start the Warsaw Ghetto, and, like, when they were coming up with this idea, they started to move forward with the project, where they got a bunch of political leaders on board. Adolf loved this idea, which like I think a lot of people would be surprised. Oh my gosh, I love this idea! I think a lot of people would be surprised to hear that like he would like an idea that doesn't involve outright extermination. Mm-hmm. He actually had them pause the Warsaw ghettos because he was like, it's pointless. Like, why are we even doing the Warsaw ghettos if we're going to move forward with the Madagascar Project? Mm-hmm. And so everybody started concentrating their energy and their efforts into this project. In 1937, the Polish government started to heavily investigate this concept of sending all of their Jewish citizens.
Time out.
Yes.
I'm confusing the timeline now.
It's not an immediate timeline. This is just relevant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In 1937, the Polish government also got on board with this idea. Mm-hmm. So before World War II, a lot of countries, a lot of sovereign nations, they're heavily considering this. But, like, they're really thinking about this as, like, a potential good idea. Mm-hmm. And they send investigators to Madagascar and everything. And so they meet with a lot of German officials because Germany was the ones that were really peddling this idea, even though World War II hadn't kicked off yet. Because there were people before Hitler who were fans of this idea. This idea was pitched to him after he rose to power, but the idea predates him by decades. Yeah. The Polish government was investigating it, and they were really into the idea. They wanted to basically get all of the Jewish citizens out. And Poland specifically, during this era, pre-World War II, it was a pretty violent hub for anti-Semitism. They had a lot of cultural beef with the Jewish citizens, and it was just a very unfortunate period for Poland. They sent people to the island, and they were like, let's see, like, how feasible is this plan? And they ended up pulling out of the plan because when they got there, they realized that they could only accommodate 5,000 to 7,000 families, like Polish Jewish families, and they were like, that's not enough. Like, we want all of them out of here, basically. Because, like, when people look at Europe in World War I and World War II, through the U.S. lens, everybody has a very, like, oh, everybody rose together up against anti-Semitism kind of approach, when really a lot of these countries were only on board because they felt like it was the most efficient way to move Jewish people out of their countries. And so, like, everybody had varying reasons for why they wanted to get involved. Right. And the U.S. specifically teaches that it was like a righteous cause, but not everybody was looking at it that way.
When we got involved, it was. God bless the U.S. of A.
August 15th, 1940.
Yeah.
Adolf Hitler is on board with this idea.
2 months after France falls.
Yes. Adolf Eichmann, he puts out a memorandum where he's basically saying, we're going to send 1 million Jewish people to Madagascar every year for the next 4 years.
Okay.
So they're moving forward with this plan.
Right.
Everyone's pretty much trying to get on board. How are we going to fund this infrastructure? How are we going to pay for this? How are we going to pay for this?
Is Germany paying for it?
No, because remember...
Poland's paying for it.
No.
Who's paying for it?
I will tell you. Because a big contributing factor to why World War II kicked off the way that it did is there was a lot of economic disparity across Europe.
Right.
And specifically, Hitler's rise to power was heavily contingent on the fact that people in Austria were dying of famine. They were dying because the economy was so bad. Yeah. And he told them, like, I'm going to fix the economy. And so they voted for him on those grounds. He didn't just, like, lead with his anti-Semitic beliefs. He led with finances. And since people were dying, they got on board. And when he first came into power, people actually did see positive effects in the economy.
Because they started preparing for war.
Yeah, and people started having more food, and the famine went and got a little bit better, only to get significantly worse, though.
Yeah.
That brings us back to the original question. Who's paying for this? Europe decided, and not all of Europe, but it was mainly Germany and Italy. It was mainly Mussolini and Hitler.
Damn, man.
Yeah, so Adolf called Benito. He was like, hey, my team's been discussing this idea of establishing a bank. And so Benito was like, tell me more. He was like, because we need something to pay for this massive migration of people, and we also have to create an infrastructure so that they can't escape the island, and we have to create our military outposts on the island. I mean, I know there's some because France has control of the island, but Madagascar is mainly jungle at this point in time. So they're like, we're going to need to do a lot of work just to make sure that people can't escape. And so it's going to be pretty expensive. So the bank that they had in mind was a bank where they're going to seize all Jewish citizens across Europe who they had access to. They're going to seize their funds.
Yeah.
And they're going to put them in this bank.
Right.
And they were going to make the Jewish populace pay for their own
internment
in Madagascar.
That's nuts.
It's fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, all of World War II is pretty up, but still.
Yeah, the more you learn about it.
Yeah, it gets worse the more you learn, yeah. So they were going to make them pay for it. Why didn't the Madagascar plan move forward, though? Do you know?
I'm going to guess between the rising conflict coming between them and Russia, combined with the fact that such a project would take more manpower, and they were having to fight in Africa. They were fighting on too many fronts, and this is where like their blitzkrieg started to slow down. So I'm gonna guess, because of a multitude of reasons between the fighting on multiple fronts, the lack of manpower that's going to suddenly be very apparent, and the onset of the war with the Russians. Is any of that correct?
A lot of it, that's correct, actually. Familiar with the Battle of Britain?
Yeah.
After they lost the Battle of Britain, the concept was permanently shelved.
Yeah.
Because they basically needed to win that battle in order to have like the funds and the manpower and like the routes,
They need to get
the
rid of
protected
Britain.
routes,
Yeah.
in order to actually get this done. Because mind you, Britain has like a lot of footholds in Africa. It's not all France. I mean, France has the Ivory Coast and Madagascar and a few other locations, but a lot of it is British colonies, and somewhere like South Africa especially, which has like an incredible navy at this time. Madagascar is not that far from South Africa.
Oh, it's right there.
Right there.
Hop, skip,
So
and
it would
jump.
be a big problem for them.
So which are my points for right? Just the Battle of Britain?
Yeah.
That's what? All right. So it had nothing to do with the Soviets?
Well, no, it actually does have to do with the Soviets.
Oh, so Africa and Soviets.
They
Two
were,
for three.
they were locked in on either side, basically.
Well, 3. I'm going to give myself 3 for 3.
Yeah.
Also, food is delicious. 10 out of 10. What are you again? Big fan of Italian food. This snack right here.
Stop. Okay, so yeah, Operation Sea Lion, that's what their, like, the German perspective was on that battle, right? Where they were going to go in, and they thought they were going to win, and they didn't win. But they needed to win, not just because of everything I already listed, but because their plan was to commandeer their ships.
Britain's.
Yeah, ships and all their other fleet. And they were going to use those ships to transport everybody. They didn't have enough extra ships to transport everyone.
Such an inefficient use.
I mean, I know. And a lot of historians, mind you, if the Madagascar Project were to have been a success, it's like, I don't want anyone to be like, oh, this is better than a Holocaust, because really most historians agree that it's just a genocide through different means. So the Holocaust, you know, we shouldn't be playing oppression Olympics with like a real Holocaust that happened and a potential genocide that didn't. You know, just want to put that out there. After they lost the battle against the British, they were like, okay, we're going to resume construction of the Warsaw Ghetto, which is like one of the most famous ghettos of World War II. And so after they resumed construction of the Warsaw Ghetto and they shelved the idea of the Madagascar plan, they essentially end up moving forward with all ulterior plans, which results then in the concentration camp idea. And so that's how they get to the place that they were. Originally, they weren't actually very focused on Jewish people in Germany. They were kind of like going to deal with that later. And so then after they lost this battle against the British, they turned their focus on the Jewish people within their own populace. And they just decided to start there. And so that's how the ghettos and the concentration camps became so prevalent, because Plan A fell through.
Plan B.
So how does this connect to Attack on Titan then?
Well, it's very obvious.
Well, it's even cooler than that, okay?
Go ahead. I'm not
The map in Attack on Titan. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
The whole map is upside down. It's our global map inverted. And so it makes it look like the island of Paradise is a lot more central than it is, because it's inverted and mirrored. So therefore it puts the island of Paradise in the center of the map, whereas normally Madagascar is over here.
Yeah.
But it moves it over here. And so the island of Paradise is Madagascar. It's just Madagascar upside down and mirrored.
Good job.
When you watch Attack on Titan, I remember when we first started watching it together, we had both originally started the show before we met and before we were dating. When we started watching it together, I think there was even a moment where you were like, why is everyone German on the island of Paradise? Like, what's the point? And now, with this cultural context in mind, it makes a lot of sense, because really the most like heavily German characters are those who work the wall. They're the ones who go outside of the wall. They're all of the guards. They're the ones who are in like the literal SS looking uniforms.
I mean, even though that's...
Yeah.
I was like, all right, if you take this and you unfold it, it's lit like...
It's not looking good.
No.
Yeah, and the people...
Reiner, Berthold...
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They all have
Aaron,
German names.
Jaeger.
Yeah, and I remember you asked me about that too. You're like, why is his name Jaeger? Like, what's the point?
They're all German.
Yeah, and it's because they're all German.
Even the way they dress, like the plain clothes of like the normal people.
Yeah, and have you noticed, like, people, overall, anime doesn't have a ton of curly hair. But it does still have characters with ringlets and stuff.
I mean, they even had a few black people in there.
Yeah, but they did not have anyone with curly hair. So it all kind of still fits into a pretty German, Eurocentric mold.
Yeah, no curly
It's not blonde hair, blue eyes, but it is still very Eurocentric.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And, like, intentionally so. There's a lot of blue eyes, though. Like, the majority of the characters have blue eyes.
Mikasa doesn't. Armin does.
Mikasa doesn't?
No.
Oh.
Mikasa and Eren don't.
The children of Ymir, they're a specific group of people who were originally accused of, like, destroying the world and hoarding all the resources for thousands of years, which is, like, a very prevalent anti-Semitic narrative that's still alive today. And so it is literally a direct allegory for how the world at that time was treating Jewish people. And so Attack on Titan is a universe wherein, and obviously it's got some dramatic differences. I think it would be anti-Semitic to say that, like, the children of Ymir are exact replicas of how history sees Jewish people, because they literally turn into monsters. That seems pretty messed up. But I will say, like, in terms of cultural context, in terms of the setup of the island, geopolitical positioning, historical lore, you can see that there's a lot of inspiration taken from World War II, specifically with the Madagascar Project.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, and does a really interesting job, given that context, of showing how people who grew up in that kind of scenario could easily be radicalized against the rest of the world.
So is...
Even if they don't know how much of a role the rest of the world had in putting them in Madagascar, because it's several generations removed, naturally, if you find out there's a whole world out there that you didn't know there was, you might adopt that us versus them mentality. And I think that's pretty historically accurate.
Yeah.
Because even if you look at Japan, when they closed their borders for 300 years, when they reopened their borders, they had a real, and like is still prevalent in some areas of Japan today even, but they had a real issue with nationalism and with ethnic superiority.
Yeah.
Because they had worked so hard to keep their culture alive and their borders have been closed for so long that everybody else was just them and we're us. And obviously we're best. And that really contributed to why Japan fell into the wrong crowd during World War II. The show is already so good, but I think viewing Attack on Titan through that lens, given that context, makes it so much more interesting.
Well, my question is King Fritz, is he a Zionist or is he an SS plant?
I have no idea. I literally don't know. And that's like what's strange about this situation is because although there is some overlap in terms of the Madagascar plan and in terms of creating a Jewish state, the rationale for each of those things is so vastly different from one another. And like the end goals are so completely different. Because like obviously, like Nazis wanted to create the Madagascar plan so that they could corral Jewish people into one area and suppress any sort of like freedom of speech or power or mobility, and like they just didn't want them to self-actualize, you know. Whereas Zionists who want to form a state like what we have right now, the goal for that was one of safety and wanting to make sure that they don't get eradicated and that they do have a safe space. And so even though like the core concept is like weirdly similar of creating a spot just for Jewish people, of creating a theocratic ethno-state, it's just coming from such polar opposite rationales that it's just, it's kind of incomparable, you know?
Yeah.
But like it is a fair question. Because like I was asking myself that.
What?
If King Fritz is a Zionist or if he is an SS plant. I don't know, because the thing with Attack on Titan is I'm really not sure how deep the inspiration goes. Like, I'm not I wouldn't say that it's a full allegory. Do you think it is? I don't think that it's a full allegory because it just would... I don't think it can be considered a full allegory when so much of it is based off of a fictional timeline of, like, if the Madagascar Project happened. You know what I mean? In order for it to be an allegory, it has to be based in truth. And only the initial concept is based in truth.
I mean, I guess it's not a full allegory because it's an alternate reality where the Madagascar plan went through because they won the battle of Britain.
Exactly, so it doesn't have to have every single character representative of
that's
something.
the only... It is a full allegory, just a different universe. How about that? It's just like the Marvel's What Ifs, but like genocide edition.
Jesus.
So does it make me a bad person if I'm Team Aaron?
That's up for the chat to decide. I want to see if the chat thinks that it's, like, at what point the inspiration ends. If it's a reach to say that this is, like, a point of inspiration. I personally don't think it is. When it's literally Madagascar on the map.
Hold on. All right, so he definitely is an SS plant.
What?
King Fritz. King German. They refer to Germans as Fritz.
That's true.
That's, like, a very common, like, nickname. So, if anything, Ymir is the Zionists coming together, and they love the idea.
Not everybody who, if the Madagascar Project was a success, it wouldn't have been a Zionist project. That's important to point out. They would have just been Jewish people who were interned, not Zionists.
Exactly. What did Ymir do? She built the walls. She did everything. She built the infrastructure of the island given King Fritz's command. Quite literally, for 2,000 years in her timeless realm, she built the walls, built the Titans that formed the walls. Mm-hmm. And also, the thing is that she loved the idea of King Fritz, a.k.a. the island, the Eldian island, like Paradise.
Yeah.
She loved, I guess that's where the allegory is. Like, she loved King Fritz, which could be equated to the Zionists love the idea of the island just to themselves. King Fritz moves to the island, but for a different, like, their methods.
They just have
are
different reasons, but they end
reasons.
up with the same result.
Yeah. I got lost.
I got where you're going. But yeah, I want to see what you guys think. First of all, what did you think of Attack on Titan in general, if you've watched it? Secondly, what do you think about the Madagascar Project? Is this something you already knew about?
The only thing I didn't like about the ending to Attack on Titan is that Mikasa was not buried next to Eren.
I thought she died under the tree.
She didn't die under the tree.
They showed a flash of her dead body under the tree.
Like this.
Yeah.
Well, no, she was in flowers.
Yeah, they had flowers next to the tree. Pretty sure that they buried her next to him under the tree. I think that...
They would have added a headstone, don't you think?
Maybe, but the implication wasn't... I mean, they didn't show her buried at all. They just...
She married.
They didn't show her getting married.
I could have swore that she did.
They didn't show any updates on her life, except for when she died.
The person who kept coming back to the tree was her.
Yeah.
And then her family.
Yeah.
That she made with the next man. And that's why there's more and more people.
Yep.
Because who else would go visit? Armin? You didn't see a blonde-haired man.
That's true.
You saw a dark-haired man with a woman and a baby.
You're right.
Yeah. It's her descendants.
Yeah.
So Mikasa didn't pine after him. She did move on.
Well...
She did forget about him.
She might have still pined after him for 10 years. That's what he wanted.
No, she wanted to pine after forever.
Yeah, but remember he was like, I want her to pine after me for at least 10 years. Yeah. To Armin.
Oh, well, she did the bare minimum then,
yeah.
I guess. I mean, he was a genocidal maniac, so...
And she did decapitate him, so...
Yeah. It was a very cute moment, though. It wasn't?
Get away from my neck. I have a small neck. I don't want you to...
If anything, you'd be cutting my neck.
Don't decapitate me.
Why would I decapitate
Don't decapitate
you? I'm not going to
me.
decapitate you. But it was like a...
Kyla thinks decapitation's cute.
No, but it was a cute moment because, like, they're smiling at each other and she's crying.
What? And she kissed his decapitated head.
And Ymir was smiling in the background. Although I never really got what the whole Ymir thing, like, why is she so invested in Mikasa? Is it because she sees herself and he's King Fritz?
Yeah.
And that's why Aaron
Like,
tells her that
Mikasa
he
is a
hates her?
slave to Aaron.
Mm.
That's
So it's
why.
a direct
It's like a direct
one-to-one.
parallel.
So that's why. Okay.
Okay. That being said, we're
right.
gonna get off this mukbang. Wait, you gotta say goodbye.
Oh.
You can't just leave.
Well, this was fun.
This was very fun. This was a nice little mini mukbang. Thank you guys so much for making it all the way to the end of my video. I really, really appreciate it.
Follow me on Instagram at K_Granson18 or on TikTok at the KCG83.
And you can follow me on my TikTok main, Daisy Foko. If you want to see more lifestyle stuff, which is like me and Kylan, then follow Daily Foko on TikTok, my second account. And then my Instagram is DaisFoko, DAIS. And I don't really use Twitter, but I do use Threads. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see me on Threads.
You're on Threads still?
Yeah, I like Threads. I just use it for promo for YouTube. I hope that you guys have a wonderful night, and we'll see you next Monday. Bye.